Hi, fourth graders, and welcome back to our Wednesday math form. Today we're going to work on converting fractions to decimals. But before we do that, let's do a little review. Compare the following fraction using less than, greater than, or equal to. Use everything you know about how you can figure out which fraction is larger or which fraction is smaller. When you're ready, hit play. All right, so let's go over this one together. When I'm comparing fractions in order to figure out which one's less than, greater than, or equal to, I always like to use fraction strips. So to do that, I would have to represent 5/8 and 4/10. So I draw out my fraction strips so that they're equal length, but this one's broken up into 8 pieces, and this one's broken up into 10 pieces. Then when I fill them out with the correct amount, 5 out of 8 and 4 out of 10, I can see that 5/8 is greater than 4/10. So 5/8 is greater than 4/10. Nice work. Today, though, we're going to be working on converting fractions to decimals. When working with decimals, I always like to think of money. The first digit to the right of the decimal point represents tenths. 10/10 makes a whole. The second digit to the right of the decimal point is hundredths. I can see that word hundred in there, so I know I need 100 hundredths to make a whole. Decimal points and any number to the right of a decimal point means it's less than a whole. It's less than $1. So that's why we use cents to represent different amounts. We can also use base 10 blocks to help us visualize this work. When using base 10 blocks, I always have one large block here that's made up of 100 little blocks. This represents one whole. To show one whole, or if we're using money, $1, I would have a 1 in the ones place, and then I don't have anything extra, so I'd have a 0 in the tenths place, and a 0 in the hundredths place. This represents one whole. I also, though, with base 10 blocks, have rods. Rods are smaller than one whole. Each rod is made up of 10 little cubes. I need 10 rods in order to make one whole. So, to represent this, this is representing my tenths. So I would represent this one rod is 1/10. I need 10 of them to make a whole. Lastly, we have our cubes. Our cubes are the smallest pieces. Those represent our hundredths. I'd need 100 cubes in order to make a whole. So we represent that decimal point 0.1. Now let's work on creating decimal points and its equivalent fraction when using base 10 blocks. So take a look at this. I have 3 rods. How would I represent 3 rods as a decimal? Well, if I look back here, I can see that 1 rod equals 1/10. So 3 rods must equal 3/10. Now, if I was to represent that as a fraction, I said out loud 3/10. So the equivalent fraction to these 3 rods would be 3/10. 3/10 is equal to 0.3. Let's try another one. It looks like I have 4 rods and 6 cubes. Remember, cubes represent hundredths and rods represent tenths. So how would you represent these different blocks as a decimal? Pause the video, and when you're ready, press play. All right, let's go over this one together. So I see that I have 4 rods, so I know that means I don't have any holes, but I do have 4/10 and 6/100. So it looks like I have 46/100. Okay, so when I represent that as a fraction, I know that 0.46 is equal to 46/100. Awesome job. Let's try one more together. Okay, I have my whole base 10 and 2 rods. How would I represent this as a decimal? And how would I represent this as a fraction? Well, it looks like I have a whole 1, so I'm going to keep a 1 there. And then if I have 2 rods, that's 2/10. So this is 1.2, which is equivalent to 1 whole and 2/10. Nice work. We also can represent without using base 10 blocks. Let's take a look at this problem. I have 2/5. When representing 2/5 as a decimal, I can't just throw up a 2 or a 5 because tenths and hundreds mean I have 10 in the denominator or 100 in the denominator. And I don't have either of those. I have a 5. So in order to do that, I need to ask myself, well, can I multiply my numerator and my denominator by anything to get to tenths? I totally can. I know that if I multiply 5 times 2, that gives me 10. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 2. When I do that, I get 4/10. 4/10 is equal to 2/5. So now that I know that, can I represent this as a decimal? Yes, I can. I have 0 wholes and 4/10. All right, so we did a lot of decimal work. If you feel like you need to watch this video again for an extra review, please do so. It's so important that we know how to convert. But if you're ready, let's get started on that math form below.